and it just keeps getting worse.
For the rest of our history, for my family, it'll be an unknown. They won't know.
The emails came pouring in. New complaints tonight about missing loved ones buried at a Detroit cemetery, but the family can't find the bodies. Tonight, we are learning there are even more families saying their trust was betrayed when they relied on Gethsemane Cemetery to take care of their loved one's body.
Minutes after our investigation aired last night, the emails came pouring in. Other families wondering what really happened to their family members. So let's send it to the newsroom, where investigative reporter Karen Drew is working on this story. Karen, what are viewers saying to you?
It has been a crazy last 24 hours, been pouring through those emails. One viewer tells me she knows her dad's buried in the cemetery, calls the city, can't find exactly where he is. Another one said that the grandfather's marker actually vanished. And again, just what it was 4:15, Taisha just emailed me. She says, we appreciate you doing this story. I first noticed my grandfather and Uncle Willie had been moved a few years back. Now she doesn't know where her grandfather or Uncle Willie is. And this is just a few examples. And there's this one. This one deals with generations that are really upset.
We have grandchildren I'd like to take down there and say, well, this is where your grandmother is. This is where your grandfather is.
But like the 24 other families who shared their stories with Local 4 investigators, John Barker is no longer certain where his parents are buried.
For the rest of our history, for my family, it'll be an unknown. They won't know.
Long before they died, Bert and Selma Barker planned ahead. Back in 1955, they bought their own future grave sites at Detroit's Gethsemane Cemetery. Their son, John Barker, says his parents wanted to make sure they had a final resting place, a peaceful spot for generations of family to visit and to remember them. And for years, John and his sister Phyllis visited their parents' gravesite until one day the headstones were gone. Vanished. And like the other families who told us their stories, Barker says the cemetery management companies hired by the city were no help at all.
You can't get in the gate. You do get in and there's nobody in the office. Be back later, there's a note on the door. Nobody ever comes back. There's nobody there. Over the last 20 years, it didn't matter who was the contractor that came in, that the city hired to do it. They were all lame.
We asked the city of Detroit, the owner of Gethsemane Cemetery, about Bert and Selma Barker's headstones. In an email to our investigative team, the city said it has no headstone or evidence of a headstone purchase for Bert and Selma Barker. But John Barker does have evidence. A headstone receipt. It's decades old, but you can still read it. It shows that Bert Parker paid more than $500 for headstones, and a cemetery charge is included in the cost.
We still haven't found Bert and Selma.
His parents were betrayed, Barker says, by the cemetery they chose as their final resting place. And he has questions for the cemetery owner, the city of Detroit.
Well, I would say who hired the contractors? It was the city. Did they hire the worst ones they could find? Well, if I want to go down there on Veterans Day and stick a flag in Bert's next to his grave, I can't find him.
Tim. Now, I have to tell you, mayor's office wasn't talking, so we sent the link to our story to all 9 city council members of Detroit. Still, no response from them. As you know, Devin and Kim, of course, we're going to stay on top of this one.
Of course. Okay. Karen, who oversees the cemetery? I know the city, but which city department is it?
That is a good question, because the mayor's office is here. Now you got the Department of City Parks and Rec. They are not talking, but I will tell you, we were able to get some contact with an insider, and I was taking some notes on what they said. They said they were at the cemetery, and the insider described it as an absolute mess at the cemetery. They said graves were sold more than once, with bodies just buried on top of bodies. Like I said, the tips are coming in, the emails are coming in. There's a lot to work on this story. Definitely want to hear from you. My email's posted on clickondetroit.com. Please reach out. This is a huge story.
Yeah, so many people affected. Okay. Karen, thank you.